You know, when we think of royal scandals, we often think of the ones literally that are in front of us in this present day. It goes without saying, of course, that the shenanigans of Prince Harry and the cable TV actress Meghan Markle have certainly shaken up the drama over the last 5 years over here inside the British monarchy. But nothing, as I often say here on the show, is truly new. You see, my thing is that we just don't know about it simply because it's lost in the annals of time. And, you know, what was a big explosive story suddenly becomes past, doesn't it? Nobody's shocked anymore. It's like so many things when you think about it, you know, the death of a president. Everybody remembers the Kennedy, but of course, you know, the other side of it was there were other big bombshells around that era too. But why do certain stories stick and others don't? In royal circles, they hope, you know, that you kind of forget all the shenanigans of the past. And it's interesting to note that way back in April 1917, just at the height of the First World War, the then Prince of Wales, Prince Edward, really embarked on a terrible situation that almost wrecked, once again, the British monarchy. Let me explain. Morning, how are you? Nice to see you. Thank you so much. We're in, of course, the beautiful Kensington Park, the home, the London home, at least, of course, the Prince and Princess of Wales. If you've been here, you'll know what I mean. It's a splendid place. If you haven't had a look round, I know it can be quite pricey ticket-wise, but on the other side of the coin, it's worth just coming and having a look, sitting on the benches and literally soaking in the atmosphere of what would have been, of course, the home of Queen Victoria, who stands proud behind me. Yes, a little bit fearsome, I might say. You do look at these statues and think, are they true to life? Was she really like that? But of course, that's what they had then, didn't they? She was just starting at the adventure of photography and moving pictures, which was embraced by, of course, King Edward. Very clever, wasn't he? Very much ahead of his time. Oh, by the way, we haven't had a wave, have we? Yes, a wave from Kensington Palace. How are you? Nice to see you. Now, let me take you back to this particular story. What you find out, as I say, when you dig a little bit deeper, is there's this story that we think we all know about, which is with, of course, Edward and Mrs. Simpson, Wallis Simpson, put about as the most, dramatic and disliked woman of the world of that particular period. But you see, Edward was a little bit like, well, I would like to suggest at least, Prince Harry, headstrong, didn't want to do anything that he didn't want to do, and more importantly, brought a lot of shame on the British monarchy. You see, as I say, take yourself back to April 1917, and during being stationed out in Paris at that particular time with the British Army, Edward met a courtesan, yes, Marguerite Albert, or Alibert, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Now, she'd come from a rather, shall we say, difficult background, to say the least, already had a child and given that away, and decided to reinvent herself, as I say, as a courtesan. Whatever you want to make of that, I'll leave that one up to you. Well, she beguiled the then, of course, budding Prince of Wales, so much so they embarked on a wonderful and disastrous, some might suggest, affair. But what followed was almost worse than anything we could imagine today. Let me explain. You see, the bigger problem for Prince Edward that he was, hopelessly in love and had written endless letters, even though his army mates had said, look, don't do it, you're in a very precarious position with the fact that you are, part of the British monarchy. He didn't care. He thought these letters wouldn't really mean anything to someone like that, and with him signing it with just an initial, what could they possibly do in the future? Well, very quickly, as we saw with Edward, he got very bored very quickly and decided to move on. Marguerite was having none of it though, but eventually he managed to get himself free, all the while paying her a small sum every single month, which has never been documented until now. It's funny what records reveal, isn't it? So basically she needed something to live. But he did have something of a reprieve, because she found somebody even richer, if not as titled, as the Prince of Wales. And he thought, phew, finally I've got shot. But it didn't last for long. See what happened then? She ran very quickly, very short of money, and it wasn't enough, the sort of monthly allowance that he was giving her. She got used to life in a Rolls Royce, buying fashionable clothes, billed all to the British monarchy over here in the United Kingdom. You see a pattern, right? Now, what's interesting also, by the time she decided to arrive back into London for the summer, she wanted some more money. And basically, it was the equivalent for her to destroy the letters of around about 9 million. I kid you not. That's exactly what she was asking Edward to deliver. Now, of course, he had his advisors and he said, stick it out. They didn't think that she would do this, but she did very cleverly by moving into the Savoy. And she was pictured with not one, but 3 editors of national newspapers, putting a shiver down Edward's spine, knowing full well that she could be negotiating a contract. Now, Edward's idea was to simply zip along to the Savoy and try and reason with her. But of course, even in those heightened times, they could have had reporters waiting at the next table or indeed at the entrance to the Savoy. What was he going to do? It was while dining at the Savoy that Marguerite stumbled upon somebody wealthy, yes, an Egyptian playboy, Prince Ali Fahmy. Now, basically, he wasn't really a prince, but he was fabulously wealthy and could give her the lifestyle that she liked. Now, this really gave Edward something of a reprieve. At this point, he'd now moved on to yet another married lady called Freda Dudley Ward. And that story would play out very badly too. However, if he thought he got shot of Marguerite, there were other problems. You see, the bottom line was when she came back to the Savoy for the season in the summer of 1924, for some explicable reason due to an argument about money, she shot him, literally in the hotel room of the Savoy. Now, instantly the police were called and there was a big drama. But she didn't exactly think it was too much of a drama. She decided to step out of her Chanel nightgown and make sure that she was put into some couture clothing to make sure the photographers got to see her looking her very best. Now, as you can imagine, she wanted to reach out to the Prince of Wales. She thought that he was going to help her. He didn't want anything to do with it. So she resorted back to what she'd done before, which was the letters. Now, what happened was they could not have these letters once again revealed in the media. So they decided, of course, via certain people, to paint her as something of a scarlet woman, And more importantly, she also backed up the story by claiming that the Egyptian prince had indeed been rather discourteous to her and at times had beaten her. A terrible story, as you can imagine. Now, what truly happened was she managed to get acquitted for his murder and went back over to Paris to look for somebody once again even richer. But from time to time, money still went back from Edward, even though he'd now moved on from Freda Dudley Ward and was now married to Mrs. Simpson, simply because she had the power to make sure that he would pay up. And he paid up for many years to come. So you see, how stories evolve and how they really play out is not exactly how you and I see them in the media. And more importantly, if you look at the papers of that time, they painted Edward as a saint. Of course, when you look down the years, he was anything but. But Marguerite was certainly a lady ahead of her time. She knew exactly how to play the game. And right until her very final year, she was still receiving money from the Duke of Windsor. Now, some people might say she's a scarlet woman. In today's world, she would have been seen something slightly differently. Or do you disagree? Neil Sean, Kensington Palace.